Call to order the regular meeting of the City of Yuba City Council, slated for 6 o'clock on this date. A few minutes after, we're coming out of closed session with nothing to report out of closed session. If we could have roll call, please.
Mayor Buckland?
Here.
Vice Mayor Cleveland?
Here.
Councilmember Didball? Here. Councilmember Dukes?
Here.
Councilmember Gill?
Here. This evening we're going to do things just a little bit different. Today, unfortunately, we had a loss of a crew member from Beale Air Force Base following the crash of a U-2 trainer plane. So if we're going to stand and observe 1 minute of silence. We have an invocation led by Councilmember John Dukes.
Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for this day, the day that you have made. We thank you, Lord, for the responsibility that you have given to us to lead our community. We pray tonight that you will give us wisdom with the items that are before us that affect our community. We pray that you would be with us here tonight. We ask this in your most holy name. Amen.
And if I could have Sergeant Runyon lead us through the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If I could have Rose from Casa de Esperanza come on. Rose. I see you're carrying things, but I get to go first. It's a proclamation honoring Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I will read a version of that longer proclamation, but in shortened form. Whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's privacy, dignity, security, and humanity due to the systematic use of physical, emotional, sexual, psychological, and economic control and abuse, and whereas domestic violence leaves an imprint of fear and hostility, and whereas the Yuba City Council is committed to restoring the right to freedom from fear in our own homes, and whereas the City Council is committed to restoring the right to freedom from fear within our communities. Now therefore be resolved that in recognition of the important work done by domestic violence programs in cooperation with Casa de Esperanza, I, John Buckland, Mayor of the City of Yuba City, on behalf of the entire City Council, hereby proclaim the month of October 2016 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We urge all citizens and agencies and businesses to work together as a team in our community through prevention, intervention, and educational programs to eliminate domestic violence and become a violence-free community. Done on this 20th day of September 2016, the City of Yuba City. And Rose, with everything that Casa de Esperanza has been through, their perseverance following fire and relocation and things like that, I know it's been a difficult path, but we as a community, we stand with you. We have for years been a supportive and very active member with Casa de Esperanza, and certainly wish the very best in promoting this, and also ask all of the communities surrounding us to also take an active role. So, any words that you would like to say? I'm going to give you the mic.
Thank you.
I'll take those from you if you'd like
Okay,
for a
thank
moment.
you. The ladies and staff at Casa Esperanza, thank you very much. We do feel the support of the community, the city as a whole. We are having a benefit in October sponsored by Angel Diaz, and I've got the invitation here. I got flyers. Most offices have gotten flyers, but if you need more flyers, I'm not ribbons, excuse me, ribbons. That's the flyer for the annual the ribbons. Let us know. Call us. We are open 24/7, and we will gladly provide the ribbons for you.
You'd probably come to a different location to pick up the ribbons than to the casa itself. So.
Right. We will. That's why we will deliver them.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I know that you're going to want to pass out ribbons to the council members. But thank you very much, Rose. She will also have extras for anybody in the audience that would like to have
Thank you.
one to wear. If I could get Bill Fuller to come on up. It's just like the fire department. You're going to make a big presentation about this. Proclamation. This is Emergency Preparedness Month. This is actually for this month of September 2016. Bill, whereas the United States Department of Homeland Security and the American Red Cross continue to promote a nationwide initiative designed to encourage all Americans to prepare for emergencies, and whereas the City of Yuba City participates in this effort to educate the public and encourage them to prepare for emergencies, spread life-saving information, and move the entire community towards a greater state of preparedness, and whereas the City of Yuba City recognizes the need for our citizens to be prepared, alert, and aware of threats to our community's security and safety. Now, therefore, be resolved that I, John Buckland, Mayor of the City of Yuba City, do hereby proclaim September 2016 as Emergency Preparedness Month, and the residents of Yuba City urban area are encouraged to refer to Be Prepared Yuba City, a household emergency preparedness guide that is available online at cityofyubacity.net to assist them in protecting their families, reducing the impact of emergencies and emergency on their lives, and to better deal with chaos if an incident occurs near our community. Every day is chaos, but this is meant in a more holistic manner. I do imagine. Done on this 20th day of September 2016 at the City of Yuba City, County of Sutter, State of California. Bill.
Every year, September, we pull together start our planning process to bring everybody up to speed, reconnect them to the city's emergency plan, and get us prepared for winter months. But part of what developed, we came up with a brochure called Be Prepared Yuba City. It's on our website, the fire department's website. It's a guideline for people in the community, businesses or families to prepare come develop your own plan for your family to what to do if an emergency occurs. In the past, we have a history of slow rise floods. We have a long history of slow rise floods, but emergencies can happen at any given time, as we encountered today with the U2 coming down. Causes a lot of multi-agency coordination, regardless of some of the ones that are put here. So part of what I want to do today is September is a starting point. It's going to be over several months that the city's going to be, fire department is going to be working with city employees, bringing them up to speed and training. We're going to be pushing Be Prepared Yuba City again to get families and businesses to start looking at what they have to do to prepare themselves to mitigate any damage or impacts. We also are looking at just letting people know we have a reverse 911 system here in Yuba City. We have actually every phone number for the county, so we can get emergency information out. But in the next few weeks, we're going to be rolling out a campaign to get people to self-register their cell phones into that system so that we can get information, emergency information to you as quickly as possible. So today, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And as more information starts rolling out, we will be coming back to the council and to the community.
I do want to point out that we have never had a school bus hit and knocked on its side in Yuba City that I'm aware of. That was an every 15 minutes program that we did over at Yuba City High School. So if you see that, don't fear for putting your child onto a yellow school bus. That was a staged event. So don't hold me responsible for anything, Bill. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. And then Charles Anderson. You didn't think we'd get to you? Your proclamation, and certainly nice to see you here in the council chambers and not walking down Bogue Road or anything, pushing an empty baby stroller. But don't ask me about that. Ask Charles about that for future. Parks and Recreation Commissioner, to the commission and to the citizens of Yuba City. Whereas Charles Anderson was appointed to the Yuba City Parks and Recreation Commission on January 20th, 2009, and has served diligently for 8 years through August 3rd, 2016, serving as chairperson for the last 2 years. And whereas Charles Anderson informed himself on all issues and fully participated with the Parks and Recreation Commission to make decisions and recommendations in the best interests of all citizens of Yuba City. And whereas Charles Anderson assisted the Parks and Recreation Commission and the City of Yuba City with accomplishments such as Yuba City and the Shero campaign, the Achieve Grant, the Feather River Parkway project, which was huge, and the annual designation of the City of Yuba City as Tree City, USA. Now therefore be resolved that I, John Buckland, Mayor of the City of Yuba City, on behalf of the entire City Council, hereby commend Charles Anderson for his outstanding dedication to the Parks and Recreation Commission and his full participation in making decisions and recommendations in the best interests of the citizens of Yuba City, and sincerely urge all residents of the City of Yuba City to join me in recognizing Charles for his contributions to the Yuba City community. You have made our city a better place. Done on this 20th day of September 2016 at the City of Yuba City, County of Sutter, State of California. Charles, congratulations, and thank you very much for your dedicated service. Let me go. Because you served, and Brad's back there wondering now what's he going to do. I'm going to give you the microphone, and maybe you can inform me.
Okay. This is the first time I've actually received something. Normally through my day job, which is with the League of California Cities, I actually hand out various awards and things to council members in the northern part of California. So this is really something special to me, and I really appreciate the council and you, Mayor Buckland, for doing this for me. This isn't the last that anybody's seeing of me. I still am with the League of California Cities, and I think probably my entire life I'll be a servant of the public and a servant of local government. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So I'll fill you in briefly. Charles goes down to pick his child up from the daycare facility, but he pushes the stroller along, and a couple times when I passed him, I gave him the strange look of, there's no baby in there. So we've had conversations surrounding that, but always involved and very active in our community. So thank you again for being there. Moving on to public hearing. Item number 4, our Office of Traffic Safety Selective Traffic Enforcement Program, presented by Sergeant Jim Rainey.
Better. Okay, we're here to conduct a public hearing and adopt a resolution authorizing the Chief of Police to accept the 2016-2017 Office of Traffic Safety Grant titled Selective Traffic Enforcement Program, short for STEP, as I might refer to it hereafter, in the amount of $90,000 and approve expenditure recommendations. Further, to authorize the Finance Director to make budget adjustments as necessary. The fiscal impact is $90,000 out of OTS count 100-43409 with no city match required. In January of 2016, the Yuba City Police Department submitted a grant titled Selective Traffic Enforcement Program to the California Office of Traffic Safety. In May of 2016, the department received notification we were selected to receive funds in the amount of $90,000. No matching funds are required by the City of Yuba City to accept the grant, and the grant runs in accordance with the federal fiscal year of October 2016 to the end of September 2017. For many years, the department has had a positive working relationship with the California Office of Traffic Safety. Again, this year we were selected for funding to maintain an aggressive stance towards those individuals who continue to operate a motor vehicle in our community while he or she is under the influence of alcohol or drugs. This grant will allow the department to continue to combat impaired drivers in our community. While having an impaired driving portion, this grant also allows for other directed enforcement operations. These operations deploy officers within the city with a primary goal of reducing injury collisions through targeting primary collision factors such as speed and red light enforcement in areas with a high frequency of accidents. The goals of the grant are to reduce the persons killed and injured during traffic collisions. Best practice strategies will be conducted on an overtime basis. The funded strategies include, among other directed enforcement strategies, are DUI saturation patrols, speed enforcement, red light and distracted driver enforcement. These strategies are designed to earn media attention, thus enhancing the overall deterrent effect. The California Office of Traffic Safety has designed these operations and the funding for them to be done in addition to our daily duties, thus making an additional impact on traffic safety. In addition to overtime costs, the grant will cover the cost of 3 PAS, which stands for Preliminary Alcohol Screening, flashlights for a value of up to $4,000, which combine a high-intensity flashlight and a dynamic sampling system and a miniature alcohol sensor to analyze ambient air, breath, open containers, or enclosed spaces for the presence of alcohol during DUI enforcement. The PAS devices will assist officers to identify intoxicated drivers through a preliminary roadside screening process. The grant will also cover the cost of an impairment detection instrument in the amount of $4,995, which will record eyes of the test subject during DRE, which stands for Drug Recognition Expert, examinations. There's an additional $3,500 designated for educational materials and DUI checkpoint supplies. Additionally, the grant will fund training and certification for one officer to become a DRE. DRE personnel enhance the department's ability to investigate and assist in prosecution of DUI drug offenders. DUI arrests have risen sharply in recent years and remains a priority for the police department in reducing alcohol and/or drug-related collision deaths and injuries. The fiscal impact: the city will be reimbursed $90,000 from the California Office of Traffic Safety. No matching funds are required for this grant. Funds will be drawn through city account numbers 2198-61430 in the amount of $71,930 for overtime personnel costs, $5,575 for travel and training out of account 2198-62801, and $12,495 for direct costs associated with the grant out of 2198-63801. The alternatives would be to not accept the grant or direct staff to research additional alternatives. And our recommendation is that we adopt a resolution authorizing the Chief of Police to accept the 2016-2017 Office of Traffic Safety Grant titled Selective Traffic Enforcement Program in the amount of $90,000 and approve expenditure recommendations. And to further authorize the Finance Director to make budget adjustments as necessary.
Any questions of the sergeant?
Yes, I have one. Officer Runyon, my questions that I had yesterday were adequately addressed, except for my question on if any volunteers are used, like in the pullover part of it, where they're pulling them over and things of that nature, or is it just the overtime officers and sworn officers of that type?
All the enforcement actions are sworn personnel. The only time volunteers would get involved is our DUI checkpoints. Occasionally they will come out and help and just be an extra hand, which they're not. They're volunteers, so they're not paid out of the grant.
Okay. Thank you.
Through the mayor. Sergeant, I just have two quick questions. It's not me, but the constituents that we represent, they always want to know where the DUI checkpoints are. So I know the paper does a great job, but you always put north part of Yuba City, central part of Yuba City. And I've had this happen in the past. I think I spoke with the chief. Sometimes a school wanted to bring some of the students to show them the actual process that they go through. And I believe that's still available to do if some students wanted to come and observe for an hour, 2 hours to see exactly how you guys pull what cars randomly and then the process that goes through it.
Yeah, there's a lot of legal requirements in running a checkpoint. It takes some training to know how to do, and it's really an educational tool at this point. As you mentioned, we do have to make notification to the public that we're hosting one. We don't have to be specific, but we have to say it's in a general area. Mm-hmm. And the goal is, again, awareness. We don't want people out driving intoxicated. So they're high visibility. You can see them from quite a ways away usually. And again, yeah, we have no problem showing people how it works. It is actually a pretty interesting process.
Good. And the other question I had is part of the money's going to enforce red light, violators. And obviously we've got a big issue with two of our intersections. One is Highway 20 and Highway 99, and the other one is Highway 20 and Gray Avenue. Other than those, how are you guys going to target what intersections to go after the red light offenders?
Every month I look through our accidents and kind of see where our hot spots, if you will. In our city, the general hot spot, if you will, is all of Highway 20. You mentioned a couple of them, but if you look at over the months, over the last year, it's almost every intersection gets them. So when in fact, we just worked a red light operation about a month ago, and we targeted Gray and 20, 99 and 20. Those are the two that we worked on the most. They're very time consuming, which is a huge benefit of this grant because it takes 3 to 4 officers out there just to watch one intersection and try and target red light violators. So having this, the help from OTS to fund this is a huge benefit to us.
Great, thank you.
And any other questions before I make any comment? Thank you very much, and I sincerely appreciate the department's continued work with the Office of Traffic Safety, as I believe that they're one of the greatest partners that traffic enforcement and education can have in a community. Certainly, the Selective Traffic Enforcement Program has been around for quite a few years. This was designed primarily as a small grant opportunity to be able to go out and selectively enforce speeding and other issues related to injury collisions. Then was enhanced a little later on as the laws allowed for participation in DUI checkpoints. And so over the course of time, just so the public is aware, Yuba City's participated with the Office of Traffic Safety to the tune of millions of dollars. They have contributed greatly and have been an active partner in Yuba City, and this is ground zero for a number of programs that were designed specifically for the reduction of injury and death out of crashes. And I'm certain that portions of this may be referred to in item 18 as we come up with the League of California Cities recommendations for resolution a little later in the agenda. So again, Sergeant, thank you very much for making sure that we are still active with the Office of Traffic Safety and continue these programs forward.
Thank you.
Action of the council.
Through the mayor, I'll go and make staff's recommendation to approve item number 4.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
Through the mayor.
Good.
Was this a public hearing? Did we have to open it?
Oh, I'm sorry. Because it is the acceptance of a grant, you're absolutely right. It was a public hearing, so I can't retract the actions of the council. With this exception, I'll open it to public input, and then we can amend the action if we need to. I'll open it to the public. Sorry. Anybody that wants to speak to this may step forward. Nobody's moving. Now we don't have to take any aggressive action, so we'll close the public hearing, bring it back, and we'll close it out with the lack of input. Bid openings. Moving on to item number 5, and thank you for keeping me on my toes. I'm struggling right now with being able to only hear out of one ear and a little bit of a sore throat, so I'm not feeling exactly the best. Come on over here. Bid openings, Garden Highway Improvement, Epley Drive to Winship. Ben Moody will be the one presenting, our Public Works Director, Deputy Public Works Director for Engineering. Ben.
Good evening, Mayor Buckland, members of the council. The item before you is regarding the award of the Garden Highway Improvement Project, primarily from Winship to Lincoln is where the road improvements will be taking place, and a storm drain connection down to Epley. This project was brought before you in March of this year, where council approved the authorization of the bids and approved the plans for the project. Staff has since coordinated with Caltrans and the federal government to approve the package and authorize us to bid it. In August of this year, we bid the project, and bids were received as of September 1 this year. The project, it entails road improvements where we're going to have bike lanes, center turn lane, curbs, gutters, sidewalks from Winship to Lincoln, and then to facilitate drainage improvements, a storm drain line will be ran along the east side of the road, beginning in the north end, and carry down south to Epley Drive where we'll tie in. The bids were opened on September 1. The engineer's estimate for the project was $1.9 million, put together in March of last year with help from our consultant, Bennett Engineering, who did the primary design and put the engineer's estimate together with review from the city. Unfortunately, the bids came in a little higher than anticipated. The low bid being Lehman Construction of the city of Yuba City, 2.1. When we evaluated the bids, the primary difference was the traffic control and the storm drain improvements. Were considerably different than the engineer's estimate. Basically, the bids are put together based on the most relevant data that the city has, coordination with contractors, any material costs or fluctuations in the economy we look at to see if prices are going up in asphalt, or if we have recession going on, or different things are put into consideration. Unfortunately, with this one, we were off $200,000, a couple $100,000 from the engineer's estimate. But we still think it's a good project and a good bid. It was put out. We had six solid bids from it, and there's not really, with the work that we want done, we think it's all important to get that roadway improved and get those improvements done in that location. The overall project cost is anticipated to be about $2.5 million, which will include the contract amount, contingencies, and then also project management. Will we use all of 2.5? Most likely not. We usually shoot to minimize the contingencies and minimize the staff time, but we like to have a little bit of budget put in place to facilitate the project. With that, federal money is being used, $680,000 from CMAQ funds, and for the bike lane construction, and then $460,000 of federal CDBG money is being used for the sidewalk construction. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. And our recommendations to facilitate the project is to award the contract, Garden Highway Improvements, in the amount of the bid, $2,107,149. Authorize the city manager to execute the contract on behalf of the city following approval by the city attorney, and authorize a supplemental appropriation of $250,000 of unallocated Transportation Development Act road funds to account 91-1153 Garden Highway Improvements. Be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions of Ben?
Through the mayor.
Okay.
I do have one question, Ben. At the Winship intersection, are we going to be putting in underground wiring or conduit to facilitate future signalization of that intersection?
So staff looked at it, and in order to coordinate the improvements, the road improvements in this area, with the past road overlay, we came down to about here. And so in order to facilitate putting the conduit in across the road in a location that's not really, it's unknown right now, because with future development here, this curb's going to get set back, and then based on utilities, we don't quite know where that's at. So staff felt that the advantage of putting a conduit back a ways wasn't necessarily advantageous at this time to avoid cutting and we didn't want to cut it to make it cut across the relatively new asphalt to the north there. So
understand. That was our main concern in the first place. So
yeah.
if it means going to cutting something open that we've already done, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Thank you.
And we definitely, by policy, we have typically a 5-year moratorium where we try not to cut anything within the new roadways. So typically, if a development comes in here sooner, we would request that they bore that crossing.
Okay, thank you.
Through the mayor. This is only really kind of an observance, is that lately on some of the bids, I don't know what's been happening, but we've been, the bids have come in higher, starting to come in higher consistently again. I remember there was a season like that when I was on the board. Things kept jumping, and then there was a time when they started coming in lower. I think we might be at that time to start really, going out a little bit higher on some things, and really looking at some scrutiny on some of the bids that we're putting out, our estimates, because we might be having that increased time again. So just an observance that we might need to be a little more diligent on those numbers.
Definitely a note taken. We feel also with session kind of ending,
Supply and demand
with the contractors, and project specific with the night work and the traffic control. That the city's definitely going to look at each and every estimate that goes out and try to make sure that we have adequate funding.
Things are changing, so just encouraging a little more extra caution on that. Thank you.
Well, I don't disagree with the Vice Mayor's position on that. I would say that an adjustment for what we're seeing as a rise possibly in what is provided in the engineer's estimate itself, we still want to keep that as a fairly conservative number. Mm-hmm. That allows for good balance to determine whether or not the taxpayers are getting the best bang for their buck on any given project. I know that facing some public scrutiny when a project goes well over an engineer's estimate, what isn't looked at is the underlying factors of change orders, additional work, undisclosed items that may be within the contract. So we're aware of those issues, and especially when we start dealing with utilities, where utilities may be running underneath surfaces that aren't at the proper grade and depth. So we always have to make those changes, and then certainly some design changes that have to happen on the fly can cause increased costs, and those design changes are normally awarded based on what is best for the project. So with that, I would agree that we need to look at some adjustment, maybe upward in those specific to what some of the current requirements are, and what the construction companies want. But this is one of these key projects here in Yuba City that is certainly being looked forward to by everyone that lives south of Winship Road along Garden Highway, because most of them own old pickup trucks that rattle now as a result of that one stretch of the road. And certainly the drainage in there will improve safety on that roadway. Any other questions? If not, action from the council.
Through the mayor,
Go ahead.
I'd like to move for approval of the bid on this item.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Thank you very much, Ben. They're going to start to work on that tomorrow.
Within 30 days.
Within 30 days is tomorrow. So, item number 6, urban level flood protection, presented by Diana Langley, Public Works Director. Diana.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. At the September 6th Council meeting, Development Services Director Arnaldo Rodriguez presented and introduced an ordinance update to address the urban level of protection requirements required under Senate Bill 5. With that, it amends our zoning code to make sure that we make the findings necessary and that we address development in the future that would be within the 200-year floodplain. The item before you tonight is the actual adoption of the ordinance, and we're requesting to waive the second reading. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions of Diana? Action from the council.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Thank you very much, Diana. Moving on to public communication, you're welcome and encouraged to participate in this meeting. Public comment is taken on items listed on the agenda when they're called. Public comment on items not listed on the agenda will be heard under item number 8, appearance of interested citizens. Comments on controversial items may be limited, and large groups are encouraged to select representatives to express the opinions of the group. City Clerk, have we received any written requests?
No, we have not received any requests. Thank you.
Thank you. And item number 8, appearance of interested citizens. Members of the public may address the City Council on items of interest that are within the city's jurisdiction. Individuals addressing general comments are encouraged to limit their statements to 3 minutes. Any members from the public wish to speak at this time? If not, you'll have an opportunity to speak, I imagine, at any point that you would want to be heard. Moving on to consent calendar. All matters listed in the consent calendar are considered to be routine and can be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time the council votes on the motion unless members of the City Council, staff, or the public request specific items to be discussed or removed from the consent calendar for individual action. Anyone wish to have anything removed of the 3 items? If not, action from the council.
To the mayor, move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Moving on to general items. You don't have to leave now, Mr. Starmer. Item number 12. The Wild East connection to city water. Diana Langley, Public Works Director. Diana.
Good evening. The Wildwood East subdivision is located on the north side of Franklin Road, west of George Washington Boulevard. There's 48 lots that are approximately 1 acre in size. A few months ago, the city was approached by board members about the possibility of connecting to city water. So the subdivision is served by the Wildwood East Mutual Water Company. It's a private groundwater system that's regulated by the State Water Resources Control Board. In 2014, the State Water Resources Control Board implemented a regulation for drinking water to have less than 10 micrograms per liter of hexavalent chromium. The Mutual Water Company's water has consistently tested above the hexavalent chromium limit, and so the state has requested that they come into compliance with their order by 2020. I'd like to introduce, I have Frank Starmer here, who's on the board for Wildwood East Mutual Water Company. So Wildwood East Mutual Water Company hired an engineer to evaluate 5 options to address their hexavalent chromium issue. Option 1 was to have Yuba City provide domestic and irrigation water. Option 2 was for Yuba City to provide domestic water, and they would use their on-site well for irrigation purposes. Option 3 was to blend Yuba City water with the well water to get the hexavalent chromium level down below the acceptable limit. Option 4 was to install an on-site treatment system at the well to reduce the hexavalent chromium, and then option 5 was to treat domestic water at each receiving home. The shareholders selected option 2. And so what we would do is the city would go in and install a water line through the subdivision with meters to each home as well as hydrants on the system. Wildwood East Mutual Water Company would maintain their on-site pipelines to continue to provide irrigation water. So next steps for implementation of the project would be that the city apply for a state revolving fund loan. If they're going to connect to city water, the state requires that the city be the applicant for the loan. We would work to prepare plans and specs and the environmental document, bid projects so we have an idea of what the cost is going to be, use those numbers for the formation of an assessment district to reimburse the city for the SRF loan, construct the project, and process the annexation. So some of those things would take place concurrently, with the end result being that they would need to be annexed before actually receiving city water. The total estimated cost for the project is $2,551,000, which equates to $53,100 per connection. So this is an estimate. These numbers would be revised upon bidding and constructing the project. So the item before you tonight is to approve providing water to the Wildwood East subdivision contingent upon the approval of an SRF loan, annexation to the city and assessment district formation, and then authorize the Public Works Director to prepare and submit an application for an SRF loan to fund the construction of water lines and connection fees. They are requesting to finance the connection fees through the assessment district as well. And so at this point, I'll turn it over to Frank for comments.
Last time I was here, I was a detective and John Buckland was a corporal and Rob Landon was an officer. My, how things have changed. So Diana has been unbelievably accommodating to us and helping us out with our situation as far as hexavalent chromium goes. Wildwood East Mutual Water Company understands that we're going to be paying for this. We've conducted a shareholders vote. 43 of the property owners agreed to annexation and option 2 of our compliance plan. I have since circulated a petition. We are now at 45 homes in agreement with annexation and option 2 of our compliance plan. We don't see much opposition to this plan. The big issues for us is obviously this is very expensive and we're footing the bill, and we understand that's the cost of doing business. A couple things that our attorney Valerie Kincaid has pointed out to us is that the faster we can move this along, obviously the less expensive it's going to be in relationship to requirements of studies and environmental impact studies, et cetera, et cetera. So we'd really like to get this going as quickly as possible. The other thing is that we are still a water company and we are still regulated by the Department of Water Resources, and the Department of Water Resources has been very clear with us that they've set timetables that we must stick to, and so and we have to report to them. It's not just a matter of we have progress, it's we're making progress. So I think this is going to work out relatively smooth on our side. We hope to get the same from you folks and direction from the city and work together to get this accomplished.
Any members of the council have any questions for Mr. Starmer?
Actually, I have a question for Diana, if I could. Does the since there will be a separate irrigation water and the domestic water, does that require a backflow protection on the city meters?
Yes.
And that's included in the costs that are
Yes.
presented tonight. All right, thank you.
To the mayor, I just have another question for Diana. 2 years ago, when we did what is it, Wildwood West, had the residents right now, if they would have hooked up back then, what would have their original cost 2 years ago? I believe it wouldn't have been 53,000, right?
It wouldn't have mattered.
Okay.
We were in compliance at the time.
Correct.
We came out of compliance for arsenic after that. We regained compliance. So as far as us hooking in then, it would have been the same now.
Right. Just trying to help you guys out there. And
I
then,
appreciate if you want to foot the bill for this. It'd be
yeah,
great.
I don't mean to rub it in. I'm just saying. And then obviously, if it's $53,000, we're applying for a loan, roughly what, 2%? What's our revolving?
It's just under 2%.
Okay, so is everybody, and I don't know, and I'm just tossing this, is everybody going to finance the 53,000, or are some people just willing to pay the cash and say we're done, or some people are going to put this lien on their house and slowly by slowly they can pay it off, or when they sell the house, that lien still stays on the house, right?
Yeah, so we would form an assessment district, so they pay it through their property taxes.
Okay.
They would have the option of paying it off up front, or they would also have the option of paying it off at any time.
And then when that goes down to the line or the loan itself, so when we pay it down, there's no prepayment penalty or anything on it for us. Okay, thank you.
Through the mayor.
Okay.
I have a question on the fire hydrants. Does the current system actually have 5 fire hydrants adequate on it?
Well, the current system has, fire hydrants on it, but it's being fed by the well, so that flow is limited based upon the production from the well. When we install our domestic water line and fire hydrants, the fire department would use the city fire hydrants to fight any fires within the subdivision.
Right. So, so you're saying that the current ones that they already have there would be inadequate to be able to be the supplier for the community community, or not?
They would not have the volume of flow that the city hydrants would have. I wouldn't say that they're inadequate because they're there now and fire could use them, but the city hydrants would have higher flow and a more dependable flow.
Okay.
If there was ever a power outage or something, because I don't believe you guys have a backup generator. Yeah, so
you'd be required to have a backup generator for that. But I was just wondering because I thought they had them out there, and when I was at the county, we did do some installation of some rural fire wells, or increased them and put higher horsepower on them. So I was kind of wondering if it would have been actually less expensive to take care of this system to up their dependability, or just going ahead and going on to the city system. So what was the considerations on that?
well, the purpose of this is to treat the hexavalent chromium issue. And so from a fire flow perspective, we need the hydrants to also flush the distribution system. So not only does it help us to fight fires, but it's also necessary to go in and periodically flush the distribution system.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Not, Frank, I think that, as you guys move forward with this process, you have the support of the city to be able to try to move this project forward as quickly as we possibly can. I know that there will be some constraints on some time. We're relying on the state as part of this and some other issues, but we look forward to bringing your whole community online with city water and welcoming you into the city when that happens, as your neighbors to the west have been welcomed into the city.
So eloquently taken care of.
Yeah. And I will tell you that, it's just one more step that you're taking care of to make sure that your neighbors are taken care of. So I thank you for the leadership efforts that you've put forward out there and making sure that their health issues are being addressed as a responsible person for that system. So thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate that, and I will tell you that you have a valued employee right here in Diana Langley. The assistance and the clarity and transparency that she's given us has been spectacular. And I look forward to working with her and the rest of you guys as we get through this.
Thank you very much. Action from the council.
Through the mayor.
Go ahead.
Recommend approval of the item.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. And item number 13, Bicycle Safety Campaign Grant Application from FracMed Grant. Benjamin Moody, Deputy Public Works Director. See, your title hasn't changed between agenda items.
All right, the item I have before you is in regards to an annual grant application for the FracMed's Blue Sky program, which has to do with reducing air pollution from motor vehicles, implementing transportation control measures, and establishing public education programs. So over the last few years, maybe 5-6 years now, the city has submitted for a grant application and has been pretty successful, where we've implemented different bike lane improvements, May is Bike Month campaigns, improvements to traffic signals for bike detection and various things. And so with this year's grant application, we're proposing to submit an application for a bicycle safety campaign. And so with past direction from City Council regarding outreach to the public for awareness to the bike in the right direction, in the right location, and also with the new, relatively new law about passing with a minimum distance of 3 foot, that we thought that the safety campaign would be a good candidate for this year's application. So one of the benefits with the application for a safety campaign is that it's scalable. Historically, we get about $45,000 to $50,000 for our grant, with $230,000 being available this year district wide. And so we're hoping that with a scalable project, if it comes in at 40 or if it comes in at 55, or higher, we could adjust to accommodate what we get. And so with that, I'm asking for authorization for the Public Works Director to submit a grant application for a bicycle safety campaign, where we're submitting for about $50,000 worth of work, with $45,000 being requested for the grant and $5,000 in match funds from the city. Be happy to answer any questions.
Through the mayor, no question, but I was privileged to attend community meeting just last week. Some other members had other obligations. It was on Helen, and a very active group of citizens there. And this came up actually as an issue, that when they're driving around town, they're barely missing people while they're driving, because they're driving the wrong way against traffic. Of course, in old days, that's what we were told to do. When I was young, so you could see the traffic. Well, that changed, and so it's go with the flow, and with the new lanes that that we have, it makes it easier to do that with hopefully less concern that you'll get hit. But that is, and they're not the only ones that have mentioned that. There have been multiple people that have said they get ready to pull out, and they look both ways, and all of a sudden, bicycle zips in front of them from the opposite direction, and so it is a high concern, especially in the high traffic areas where a lot of bikes actually do travel. There's amazingly an amount of people that can't figure out that an arrow this way means to go that way. And I have also noticed that many of the arrows are very faded or non-existent, and they're very far in between in some of the areas. So if this can be put towards getting more clear arrows for travel of direction, not these little tiny skinny ones, but something decent size, and then upgrading and repainting some of the ones that are existent. So it is a problem. Thank you for moving forward with our desire to go that direction.
Through the mayor.
Okay.
Just wanted to, is this training going to be including training for drivers too? Because it's one thing about training and providing that safety for the cyclist, but if drivers don't know how to actually be around cyclists also, it could be ineffective in that way.
So basically the full scope hasn't been developed with it being a grant application for the funds. Preliminary discussions with the Bike Advisory Committee and some outreach is adding more markings, like arrow markings through town on the bike lanes, as Mr. Cleveland has mentioned, and then also put up signage where we actually physically make some of these signs and put it underneath the bike lane signs. So then it is a notice to the motorists and the bicyclists. So hey, this is the direction. Here's the safe clearance. So it should be to everybody. But the full scope as far as advertising on different merchandise, billboards, and the full signage hasn't been nailed down exactly, but we're looking at all those options.
Okay, thank you.
Through the mayor.
Go ahead.
Ben, is this the maximum amount that we can apply for on this grant?
We could apply for as much as we want to ask for. What they've given us is that there's $230,000 available for district wide, and we've been pretty successful at this dollar amount when competing against the different public agencies. Where different people ask, Sutter County, Yuba City High School, the different Marysville ask for different funds, and so not necessarily Marysville, but Yuba County agencies are open to apply. And so we thought this might be a good range where we could be squeezed in for some funds.
The reason I ask that is I've served on this board in the past, and there's been years where the funds have gone unused because people didn't ask for them. So my recommendation would be to ask for more than what we think we can use, and have additional things in the wings, like you said, where you could pull back if you wanted. But it's a shame that some of this money goes unused each year because it's not asked for.
Definitely note taken, and we coordinate with Frackman to kind of see who they've heard is applying for the grant, to kind of get a feel for what's going on.
All right, thank you.
Ben, just a couple, I guess, observations that I have is, as we look at the acceptance of this, potentially the acceptance of this grant, that programs be built through the system to be sure that the educational component is community-wide, not just Yuba City-based, that we try to reach out as much as we can, because we do have different users of our streets from outside the community. And we look at these things as a comprehensive program with the idea of reducing injury crashes, and certainly bicyclists are not without fault. I believe that laws are generated oftentimes to protect the stupid in many cases, and bicyclists are not the most obedient, and when they're moving around high-speed vehicles, that they don't always use the best of common sense when it comes to their own safety. The law of a 3-foot separation, it's great until the bicyclist moves laterally within their travel, and a motor vehicle then tries to give the 3 foot of clearance, completely void of any responsibility for going head on with another car coming the opposite direction. We had one of those collisions here recently where the vehicle was trying to avoid the bicyclist and caused a head-on crash. The avoidance of stopping at stop signs is huge with bicycles in our community. They also run red lights frequently. It is probably more imperative of cyclists to abide by the laws and traffic rules that we have in place for their own safety. And we need to really work with these campaigns to be able to move those programs forward. So I give a great amount of credit to these programs, but again, it can only be followed up also with that involvement from the enforcement and the education side at the police department. So I do appreciate your efforts in this matter. Action from the council.
To the mayor, I'll move staff's recommendation.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I didn't really mean to use the word stupid. I just couldn't think of anything else that fit the bill at the time. Okay, so I meant stupid. Moving on to item number 14. Fifth Street Bridge Replacement Project, authorization to enter into a high-cost agreement, presented by Diana Langley. The lady with many accolades tonight, Mr. Starmer's gone, so he can't continue to give you any, but our Public Works Director, Diana.
Yeah, so this is a really exciting time for the Fifth Street Bridge. Over the last few meetings, we brought items before you. Tonight, we have 2 additional items. And as we move forward over the upcoming months, you're just going to see more and more items related to the realization of a new Fifth Street Bridge. This item before you tonight is a high-cost agreement. Caltrans has a policy that any project with construction or right-of-way costs in excess of $20 million must enter into a high-cost agreement. The construction estimate for the Fifth Street Bridge is just over $65 million, so it's triggering this agreement. The purpose of the policy is to avoid a single project being allocated more federal funds in a given year than the project can actually spend. So they don't want to allocate $65 million up front, knowing that you're not going to spend it all in that first year, because then that hinders their ability to fund other projects. The agreement requires the local agencies to commit non-federal funds to advance the construction of the project. Once the local agency commits the budget authority for the full construction funding, Caltrans will commit up to $20 million for construction each federal fiscal year. The Fifth Street Bridge is expected to span 4 federal fiscal years, so $20 million per federal fiscal year should be sufficient to meet the cash flow needs of the city. The estimated monthly payments for construction vary between $1.3 and $3.8 million, with the average being approximately $2.4 million. So the way this will work, the city will pay the contractor, and then once we pay the contractor, we'll submit the invoice to reimbursement from Caltrans. So you'll always kind of be a month lag in terms of submitting for reimbursement. So with that, the city will regularly need to carry between $4 to $6.5 million prior to receiving reimbursement from Caltrans. Staff recommends utilizing citywide pooled cash to cover advancing the expenditures. And so, I just want to be very clear. This high cost agreement is basically stating that the city will advance the funding of this project. With that, we are working with Caltrans to allocate up to $20 million per year for reimbursement. There is risk associated with the high cost agreement in the sense of if the funding doesn't come through in a year, what does the city do? With that, the city would have the ability to suspend the construction contract until such time as the funding comes through. So I want to be very clear, there is risk associated with it. Other agencies have executed this agreement and constructed their bridges successfully and were reimbursed. We're working closely with Caltrans staff to ensure that the city would be reimbursed, and we would continue to do that. In addition, we will not be actually awarding a construction contract until next year. And so this agreement just needs to be put in place so that Caltrans can start to program the funds for this next federal fiscal year. And so they're requesting that this agreement be executed by mid-October so they can start the programming of the funds. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Diana?
Through the mayor. Diane, I have a question. They said that they will allocate up to $20 million per year, but let's say the first year we only spend $15 million of that. Does that carry over to the next year, or it does carry over? So, all right, thank you.
Any other questions of Diana? I'm actually gonna let the members of the public, or desire to have any input from the members of the public. The word risk was put out there. So I think it would be appropriate if any member of the public would like to have input on this item. 14, if you would go to the podium, give us your name.
Mayor and council members, my name is Fotine Halakis Kopriva. I reside here in Yuba City on 129 Ramirez Drive, but I have a question when we're talking risk, and since we've had issues with budget expenditures and stuff, it's come to the public of over expenditures on the bids and the estimates and amounts that we've been doing. So I just want to ask a couple questions. On this project, I'm really excited about it. First of all, I want to let you know that. I think it's an awesome thing. But with the risk issue with Caltrans, what happens if they decide and they have an issue and they can't fund, and we stop construction on a bridge where the bridge is passable now? Where do we go from there? So in year 2, in the middle of everything, what happens?
I'm going to answer it because I have enough working knowledge on the bridge itself. That the main part of the construction for the first couple of years, 14, will be in the first part of the construction phases. The structure will be being built north of the existing structure. The structure will continue to flow traffic. The current structure will continue to flow traffic, and at the very latter part of the construction, which I don't think would be a holdup issue, we would do our ramping to the new structure, or the tie-in to the new structure. I believe that we're really looking at programs that have been taking place over time in many different jurisdictions that allow for the use of the one structure. It's a critical component for us, especially in the event that the Highway 20 or 10th Street Bridge should reach a catastrophic failure that we nearly had a couple of years ago, and that would left us with just the 5th Street Bridge. So this is, I mean, it's an important piece for us, and we would continue to have that roadway open.
Through the mayor, just one comment, please.
Go ahead.
I had the same question. I did ask it, and found out that the history of this, I'm going to say, box of money, or the project that they have here, has been that there has never been a time that it has not followed through, and there has been really a holdup. They've always come through, always been worked out. They have to state that there's a risk, because there's always a risk. Catastrophic, something happened to California or things like that. So they're required, and in other projects I've learned that they're required to say that there's risk. And in this program, I found out that the risk is in reality very, very low, but they have to state that there is a risk. So that's what I found out.
Any other comments or questions? If not, action from the council.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're done with that part of the 5th Street Bridge. Moving on to item number 15, 5th Street Bridge Replacement Project authorization to enter into a lease agreement with the California State Lands Commission. Diana.
So the California State Lands Commission has jurisdiction over the main channel of the Feather River because it is a navigable river. The existing bridge has operated under a commission lease since 1957. The commission requires a new lease for the removal of the existing bridge and construction maintenance of the new bridge. The lease term will be 25 years. There are unusual lease terms associated with this, and this is standard in the State Lands Commission lease. One being that the state reserves the right to charge rent and to require that the improvements be removed at the end of the lease. As long as the new bridge remains operable, all indications are that the state would not charge rent and they would not require removal of the bridge. We inquired with them as to whether or not this could be removed from the lease, and the response was no, it cannot. And so we conferred with our city attorney, and the recommendation was that we go ahead and move forward. Again, that's in there, but the chances of it happening are very minimal. So once signed by the city, the commission will consider authorizing the execution of the lease at its October 13th meeting. And with that, any questions?
Any questions of Diana? Any questions of the state of California for being so hard-nosed about this?
That's the way they are. I'm going to recommend approval of the item.
Second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? batting 1,000 there tonight, Diana. Moving on to item number 16, city participation on the Regional Leadership Committee to address homelessness. Our city manager, Mr. Steve Krager.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, good evening. This conversation actually, with regard to our regional homelessness problem, I'd like to give a lot of credit to Yuba County, frankly, for taking a leadership role on this. So there's been comments on both sides of the aisle, whether or not it's good or bad, but the point being that action was taken. There's a regional group that's gotten together and had conversations with regard to where do we take it from here. The recommendation that's being made is that you appoint a council member and an alternate to serve on a regional leadership committee. Attached to the staff report is a working document, a draft action plan, if you will. And this is a framework for conversation in order to develop a coordinated response among not only the local jurisdictions but also the nonprofits. We as a city are not in the social service business. That is what counties do. However, we receive the consequence of whether there's a robust social service structure or not, and so therefore we should be a part of the conversation. So as such, staff recommends that you appoint a council member and an alternate to the Regional Leadership Committee. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Through the mayor.
Go ahead.
I would like to nominate John Buckland as the council member to represent Yuba City and the Vice Mayor Stan Cleveland to be the alternate.
I'll second those.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Well, little comment real quick here, being that we're the ones that have been kind of involved in it, I think it was kind of a default. And but I know you've done a lot of good work in forming this and keeping the focus correct for Yuba City and not embroiling us in more of a providing services as doing our due diligence, but doing it in the proper manner as our mission is for the city. So thank you for your efforts in this so far.
Well, we will continue to work down the path to address the issues that are key to our community's efforts to reducing homelessness and shrinking programs. That shrinking programs mean that homelessness is being addressed. That we can shrink programs and deal on core evaluations and services through the proper channels to make sure that the issues at hand are addressed for our entire community.
And helping some of the efficiencies and situations that individuals have the passion, but they don't have the efficiency sometimes, and trying to at least work with them on coordinating a little more with each other and become more efficient.
Absolutely.
Through the mayor.
Go ahead.
Since we're discussing this, I'd just like to make a couple comments. One is as the city manager said, that the city is not in a position to be a social agency, but I would like to see our focus on housing for veterans and helping those homeless veterans with different programs. I know that there's quite a bit of money available through HUD, through the VA, through a number of different agencies to address those issues, and we have those issues here in our area, and I would like to see our focus to be on that.
Absolutely. And those initial conversations with HUD have taken place, and certainly there is a funding mechanism from them for the homeless issue with veterans, and I think that being a key piece to what we're addressing here will certainly provide relief for a number of individuals in our community. Moving on to business from the council. Number 17, appointments of City of Yuba City boards and commissions. This last week, the Vice Mayor and I conducted a number of interviews for some unscheduled vacancies that have happened on 3 of our commissions. And one was our Planning Commission, and then Parks and Recreation had an opening, and our Senior Commission had an opening. We had very good input from the community, and very good interest, very quality interest from the community to participate in these. But it is the recommendation of the Vice Mayor and myself, following these interviews, that on the Planning Commission, that we as a body would appoint Larry Robinson with a term ending on 12/31 of 18. For Parks and Recreation, we would appoint Bonnie Pullen to a date of 12/31 of 18. And then our Senior Commission, Mr. Carl Holtquist, with a term ending on 12/31 of 20. It's a little ways out there. So that is the recommendation from the interview screening committee.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to move yours and the Vice Mayor's recommendations for those vacancies.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And folks, you now have a new job to do. Thank you. Moving on to item number 18. This is for a discussion by our council itself. And this is the League of California Cities annual conference resolution. Was asked to be brought to us by the Vice Mayor. So I will turn the lead to the discussion over to the Vice Mayor.
Well, every year, or at least almost every year, there are different resolutions, issues to support by many of the cities. There's, hundreds of them here, and at this time, they've been requesting a new path on how to, I guess, get approval for traffic funding or transportation funding. And while I was reading it, there were some concerns as to whether some of for the rural communities, being able to hold into some of the requirements and desires. It was going towards more of a social justice type situation, and then also low-income justice type things. And being that those are actually focused a lot on Oakland, Fremont, LA, and many of the other cities that have recognized by their leadership that there is social justice, reparations, or things that need to happen. And it would be very difficult for rural cities, even decent-sized cities out in the Sacramento Valley, to be able to qualify for a lot of this requirements and funding. At least that's the way I read it. And so it is, one size fits all, and I'm sorry, we're not one size fits all. And that's what I came up with on my overall analysis. So I'm a little concerned about this. I don't know if any of the other members actually reviewed the resolution. They're trying to get down to 0 accidents. I mean, it's remove all risk. Same thing that our FEMA and the Corps of Engineers sometimes tries to do. They get out there and they say, we want to remove all risk. We want it to be 1,000-year flood protection. We're looking at them like, yeah, so where do we live? In the mountains? We go in there, we have fires. Now they're trying to get them out of the mountains because of the fires. What do we move? Earthquakes. I mean, they're trying to remove all risk in this. And it's, to me, vision 0 and towards 0 deaths. And it's a noble comment, but their approach to it is literally, to me, fantasy land in my idea. So I have trouble with this.
So is your recommendation not to support the resolution?
I would not support this. It needs some work. And for us to go at it, I can't remember what the exact analysis was. Can't find it right now. And it was not fully recommended by many of the organizations. It says it puts us at risk of not qualifying and being very difficult to qualify for smaller communities and ones that don't have these issues. And so some of the money is going to be sliced off for others that we can't compete for. So I have trouble with it.
Any other input?
Did staff or administration review it much to get their input on this? Because I did not really.
Staff was not requested to review this, so we did not review this.
Okay.
This is an action for electeds to really look at as a support mechanism or not. I'll give you my input for what it's worth.
Thank you.
Having spent 32 years in police work, starting as a specialist in 1983, well into my career as a working traffic. My goal in 1983 was to work with the governor's office, and this was preceded. It was just preceding who OTS is today. The goal is to reduce injury and fatal collisions. These are considered one and the same in California and throughout the nation by the governors. An injury is catastrophic. Death, obviously, the end of the injury range. But to have a goal of zero is, while lofty and not necessarily attainable, is a goal in which to put funding and put a priority on those funding mechanisms internally. As I worked through our traffic unit in Yuba City, a number of programs were developed. I was a co-developer of the STEP program, myself and Chris Murphy, who went on to be the director of the Office of Traffic Safety, developed that very program. I wrote grants for approximately $2 million through the Office of Traffic Safety. And with efforts put forward, we went in Yuba City in a 5-year period of time from 435 injury and fatal crashes to 187. No one thought that that would be possible. You can do what you can do. It's not dollar generated. It's an initiative to make people more aware of what is going on. As vehicles, and I attribute part of the reduction to injuries in significant changes made to the automobile. They became more safe. The restraint systems became better. There were less passive systems within cars. The braking systems changed in 1984. And the requirements for different impact ratios began to change, along with a significant issue looking at impaired drivers or drunk drivers. Programs such as the Every 15 Minutes program was named specifically for the fact that someone died in the United States every 15 minutes related to DUI. To me, that was an unconscionable number. As I began that program, working with the Every 15 Minutes program, we had just put on our first programs within the Yuba City area when we had a quad fatal on Bellevin Road involving a high-speed Mustang on a foggy night with an impaired driver. You can't put dollars or effort to the reduction of those. Knock on wood, we haven't had another one of those incidents. Now, today, the numbers are about, you can't call it even though the program name is still every 15 minutes, you can't call it every 15 minutes because it's now approximately every 32 minutes. The effort's more than doubled through a concentrated effort and a vision of individuals that have had issues related to DUI. The courts have become less tolerant. There are every component of Vision Zero may not be the best for the system, but yet I think it's a vision worth looking at, debating, and certainly trying to focus to meet some of the achievements that are listed. And that's just my 2 cents.
I found the number one item that was cautioned, and that's what I wanted to find in here. It's not the value of them or the lack of being able to put a value. The point is if the League of Cities votes this to be in there, even though it does fit existing league policies and encourage them, the number one caution is that it will commit all members of the league and the league staff to supporting Vision Zero, towards zero deaths, and other programs and policies that prioritize the transportation safety within that realm. So it's going to commit the whole system to that. And that is something to where I think it's more of an individual, a city or a region, rather than the full League of Cities that should be literally committed to that legally, period. And we'd have difficulty dividing up different things. So it's that program and that program alone at the time. That was the main concern, is committing ourselves to a specific direction rather than leaving it more up to regions and stuff. And that's a statewide. And that's the reason.
Death isn't limited to region.
Right.
Fatalities in automobiles aren't limited to states. This is a national issue. The nation, through various programs and funding opportunities, address it through your federal gas tax returning to states. I think that it is admirable that we would look to achieve a goal as a state, as cities within the state, reaching out where the number one cause of death on our highways is not I-5, Highway 20, or any other place. It happens within municipalities. Mm-hmm. It is, without a doubt, one of the leading causes of teenage death. And I think that addressing those issues and putting an effort towards it is only worthy of our time and effort. As members of the league opposing it, I suppose anybody could leave the League of California Cities should they choose.
Through the mayor. Yeah, I have a little bit of a different take on this thing. As I was reading through those resolutions, it's interesting. I mean, we're a rural community. You got West Hollywood, you got Fremont, you got San Diego, you got LA, all supporting this. And if you take a look, as Yuba City, we're saying, hey, we're a real small city, so it really doesn't affect us. So, one way or the other, we should kind of be neutral, I mean, whatever the thing is. And I look at this as a community as we continue to grow. Our Highway 99 used to be known as Blood Alley. And you can even pass and you can even think about sirens going down. And I think that not only had to do with the automobiles you're saying, but it had to do with proper planning and getting passing lanes. However, we got them through Caltrans, and they were not considered 2 lanes, they were considered passing lanes, and pretty soon all those passing lanes around Dingville became into the highway. So my personal thought process is, safety, regardless of whether it's automobiles or it's police or whatever it is, public safety should be our number one priority. And one death, in my opinion, is one death too many. And, my personal thing is, if it's a resolution that puts them for us to help reduce or make safety a top priority for our transportation projects, hey, fantastic, great. If we can save, one person's life because they've made us do something for transportations, just seeing some of the projects around this community that we've done to help safety overall. And we're talking about bicycle grants that has to do with safety too, trying to bring awareness to bicycle riders as well as motorists, all part of education. I would say that we have a better chance of improving safety than somebody of LA or San Diego or Fremont or West Hollywood does.
Through the mayor.
Okay.
I think this is not about attainment of zero. This is about setting a goal of zero. I think if you look back at the every 15 minutes program and the fact that had we not done that, it may have been every 10 minutes had we not done it, but we were able to make an impact, and now it's every 32 minutes. So doing something certainly is better than doing nothing at all, and so I would support this.
I would like to restate that this was brought up just because of and it's a change of the League of Cities. I'm on one of their boards, so I was asked to bring this to the board if we had any concerns at all in direction. I brought it forward. I work with every 15 minutes almost every year, so I'm involved in that currently, as you were in the past. I don't know how about now, but this is just want to make sure we know we're committing ourselves to this. I have no objections to it. It's just I want to make sure that this change is recognized as a commitment from now into the future. So that needed to be addressed, and mainly because League of Cities actually brought it up to such a high level of discussion that we needed to discuss it independently.
I'm not going to get into a tit for tat on this, but I'm not going to have brought into question my involvement in every 15 minutes. I've been involved since.
No, you do a fantastic.
I've been involved since 1998, and every
you do a
year.
Fantastic job.
And I'm part of the leadership of the Yuba City and Marysville contingent that brings together regional cooperation, and I also assist other jurisdictions to the west and also down to Woodland whenever they put on a program. So I am involved. I have never not been involved, and I will continue to be involved because it is a viable program. Pat Miller. Microphone.
My question is the League of California Cities going to monitor how actively you participate in this if you go along with their resolution? Is there going to be any monitoring, or is this just this is what we would like to see, and everybody, you're on your own, every city you're on your own to make it happen? I mean, there's no enforcement by the League of California Cities?
This goes into a policy document support for that program, and the ideas that support the zero goal. So this is mainly a policy decision.
The policy that's
Correct.
not enforceable.
Well,
okay.
I'm not going to go anywhere with that.
Yeah, let me answer that. As the league moves forward, I think what you're going to see occur is the Office of Traffic Safety, through their programs, the distribution of funds through the governor's office, may have a funding stream that would have Vision Zero in it. I wouldn't doubt that a bit as we move forward, and that is, in my estimation, a commendable position for OTS to take.
Okay, so if you buy in, or go along with the vision and the resolution from the League of California Cities, that puts Yuba City in a better spot to get state, federal money.
It most certainly could.
Okay.
As the voting delegate that will be attending the conference, I have heard the voice of the council, and will vote accordingly of my own conscience while I am there. Down to city council reports, and I'm going to, in an effort to be fair, I'm going to make a small comment because I don't want to look like I'm sitting back and shotgunning anybody from the last position on council reports or using the bully pulpit. But I'm going to correct a couple of comments that were made at last council meeting. Well, I don't disagree with the direction of the council to appoint our city manager as the city clerk in an interim position until an election occurs, I am going to address a couple of comments that were made. Those comments were that this was done at the last minute, that there was some veil of secrecy over this. Nothing could be further from the truth, folks. I went out and solicited individuals to run for the city clerk position. I lied to them. I straight up lied to them. I was misinformed. I started about maybe 3.5 weeks before the end of the election, the turn-in, and I told 4 people that the pay for this position was $50. I was looked directly in the eye by all 4 of them and told, why would I want to do that? Some more colorful comments came later, when I was corrected by the current person that had last had that seat as the city clerk, and I was told it was $75. Well, that was a significant jump in pay. So I thought I would go out and try to solicit 2 more people. The last person of which was on the Tuesday prior to the end of the turn-in, or the ability to file paperwork. Between individuals 4 and 5, I talked to my wife. I asked her, in the absence of anyone else running, and explaining what was going on and the fact that the position had been vacated, I asked her if she would consider running for the city clerk's position. With hesitation, she didn't give me a commitment. It wasn't until after the 6th person told me very plainly that they would not do it that she agreed to come to obtain the paperwork from City Hall on Wednesday, thinking that there was still a week to file, but not knowing what the true meaning of a vacated position was, thinking if the incumbent wasn't running, that it would still give another window for people to come forward. She went out on Thursday and collected 28 of 30 signatures. This is how things are done in California. We do not put out for advertisement elected positions. We have no obligation to. The citizenry of a city has an obligation to know what positions they are available. The appealed Democrat, about a month before the ending date, put out how many positions do not get filled and have to be appointed. The voters of our jurisdiction, in their great wisdom, chose 10 years ago to make the treasurer and the city clerk elected positions. They were asked, do you want them appointed? 70% said no. They wanted to build a vote on it. With that said, I find it difficult to ask people to come and serve on a city when they're going to be scrutinized for their willingness to serve. I think that given any person that is willing, like Mr. Robinson, who has already left, and others that are willing to serve this city, you ought to look at every opportunity. Could the Sutter County Taxpayers Association, could Pat have run? Absolutely. Could any other person that's 18 years of age run? Yes. Male, female, yes. As long as you are a citizen of the United States and you meet that criteria, you can run. That's the bottom line. To face scrutiny for that by this panel is unreasonable in my estimation. I'm going to leave it at that because I've gone over my 3 minutes of concern. Again, I don't want to be accused of being somebody that ran up and shotgunned somebody from behind. This is the reason I present it here, is so anybody can respond to that. Councilmember Ditball.
I'll go ahead and make a comment to that. The reason I did bring up that position was because we did not know about it until the last minute. There was no notice, as far as I know, from our office. Even I didn't know about the position because we have always appointed somebody in the position. It came strictly on the last minute. If there was conversation going on prior to and hoping to get somebody to go ahead and file, I'm all about people coming up and doing their service. That's not the issue. The issue was that we did not know about it. As far as my history is, that position was always appointed. So when that notice came out, it was merely an email.
Through the mayor.
So that is the only comment that I'm emphasizing on,
Okay.
is that if we didn't know about it, how was the public to know that?
Go ahead and then you can make your following council comments, and I'll leave it. You can come in.
All right.
Second on this. Thank you.
Are we doing our reports?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I just want to prayers out to our Beale Air Force family. Thank you for all who sacrifice and serve, and may God bless and comfort the family who lost a loved one today. I would also like to thank everyone involved in getting our schools back up and running, getting our kids back in school. No matter how we slice it, our kids suffered and tremendously affected by it. I have a 17-year-old who was tremendously affected by it by Thursday night. She was literally in tears. So I know the suffering that went on with the kids. I have relatives who have very young ones, who the little ones were fearful of going to school from what they were visioning out there. Schools become an extension of our kids' family. It is an extension of their family. They go to school with a lot of trust and very strong relationships. And I feel that all of this had caused a tremendous loss to that. So I hope that we are effectively building those relationships, have a plan for it, and bring those relationships between our children, our schools, our teachers, our parents, and our community as a whole. It is so vital to have that relationship back and to educate our kids effectively, because it is our kids' future that we're looking at from this day forward. Other meetings that I did attend was the Housing Authority, which was pretty much normal business as far as keeping the upheld of our buildings through the Housing Authority. Transit meeting we had last week, and we authorized for the Sikh Temple to go ahead and obtain the service like they did last year of 25 additional buses to accommodate all the folks that come in to be a participant with that parade. We also have surveillance cameras and videos that are fully operational at the Bogue location down on Highway 99 in Bogue. As far as that, I don't think there was anything else from that meeting that came.
All right. Thank you very much. Moving on to Councilmember Dukes.
All right. First, I'll start with events I attended over the past couple of weeks. Had the privilege of attending the Yuba City Police Pig Feed on Saturday evening and supporting our police association and representing the city. And I would like to respond to Councilmember Didball's comments regarding the clerk's position. It has been an elected position, regardless of whether or not the current clerk had vacated that position or not. It was up for election this year. It's on the ballot, and it's open for anybody to apply for that. It was not last minute. As the mayor mentioned, it was in the paper a month prior to that position was open. So this was not a last minute thing. It comes up every, I believe, was it 4 years? Just like the council seats do. And the council doesn't go out and recruit. I mean, sometimes we do, but it's not our responsibility to make sure that people are in those positions or running for those positions. It is an elected position, and it has been in the past, and there was nothing last minute on this at all.
Thank you. And moving on to Councilmember Gill.
Sure. We had our Center Beach Flood Control Agency meeting last week. The Laurel Avenue project has been put off to 2017 due to funding, so not a lot of project stuff going on. In addition to that, last week I was asked by the mayor, who was asked by the Yuba City Teachers Association Union, as well as the Yuba City Unified School District, to come help be a mediator to get these talks moving because they had stalled. And along with the mayor, myself, and Supervisor Flores, we were able to visit with both parties right here at City Hall. We started at 11 o'clock in the morning, and we finished at 3 o'clock. That's the first time that I was involved in discussions, having been in the banking business for 30 years and understanding the finances and numbers. It was pretty eye-awakening. It was our number one priority was to get the students and the teachers into the classroom. Whatever time it took, we were willing to work till the morning. We were willing to bring breakfast in. We would have sat there the next day. We wanted to get the kids back into the school on Monday. As we got in the room, we realized that both sides were pretty far apart on their discussions. There was a lot of distrust from the parties. And I believe when we first started, the school district was at 8.6. Somewhere 9.6, and the school board was at 15%, and one into state meeting at 13%. 11 o'clock at night, we were able to craft up or help set up the foundation for them where the numbers were closer to 11.1%. And it was really interesting to see being in the whole meetings and the information that was sent out by Facebook, by all social medias, was farthest from the truth. And I can honestly say it was an eye-opening. What we sat, and everything was confidential, what we sat and what we read on Facebook was farthest from the truth. And our number one intention was to get the kids and the teachers back into the classroom as fast as we could. And it was interesting to read, even in today's paper and talking to the school districts, even on Sunday morning, even on Monday morning, to recommend that I think that you guys need to get a mediator involved, because there were just the numbers were there, they were just hung up on the language. And sadly to say, if they would have hammered out, both parties would have hammered out the language on Sunday, we would have avoided the entire week, which is well over $3.5 million lost to the teachers' salaries. And those salaries are not coming back. The strike days are not getting paid. And our students were suffering because these days that they missed are not getting added back. And Thanksgiving week, they're not getting added back into the school year. They're not getting added back. Very, very hard for students who were taking AP courses, especially at the block schedule at River Valley. One day of school day in the block schedule in AP is 3 days of regular school that they're missing. Nonetheless, they came together and got the deal done. And students are back at school and teachers are back at school. So it was very hard. A lot of people did come up and ask, why is the city council involved in this? We were asked by the school district, and we were asked by the union to help out negotiate these talks. Secondly, this is an economically impact that it hurts our community. $3.5 million taken out from the teachers means $3.5 million X amount taken out of our sales tax. Socially, it was putting neighbor against neighbor, teachers against neighbors, which is not where this community needed to go. We needed to end this impasse immediately, and we needed to get everybody back. Now that we have time of healing, and we've got to get back together and put this community into one family as we continue on. So anytime it hurts us economically, socially, I truly believe the city council needs to be effective and needs to take a leadership role and not take a backseat role. Thank you. Also attended today ribbon cutting for Pete's Pizza and Brew House, opening up here right next to Chili's. They will be having pizza and seafood, from what I understand. More than 30 beers on tap, and 75 jobs they're bringing into this community. That's huge for our community. And lastly, I want to send out prayers to the family members of Beale Force Base, the pilot who lost his life. Prayers to him and his family.
Thanks
That's all
very
I got.
much. Vice Mayor Cleveland.
Thank you. Wednesday 14th, conducted various commission interviews as was stated by the mayor. We had a fantastic group to work with and to make choices, so we encourage some of them to remain in contact, and that we may be requesting them in the future to come back and interview. Then also on Wednesday we did the Gilsizer Drainage District, and where the decision was to look at a possible change in how the district is governed and designed, with the future coming in. It's flood issues and different ways that districts are operating. We need to look at that within the city and other things that may change. Thursday the 15th, attended Yuba City Transit Authority, and then also that's the evening that we attended the neighborhood meeting. 4 firemen were there to represent our community, a policeman, myself, and I know that Preet dropped by and said couldn't be there because she has a daughter in volleyball, and definitely family is needed to be there at their games, and had a lot of great recommendations, discussions, and questions that, as far as we know, every one of them, the respective person was able to give a good answer and direct them where to do their final research. So that was a very productive day. And then the only thing I really have to say about the concern about the position is that it's unfortunate that the declaration that a position was vacated by our county clerk's recorder and elections office to cause the confusion. It could have been ruled on much sooner. At least I heard that it could have been, and that would have made it to where the 12th would have been recognized as the end rather than the extended 5 days. So this is something that unfortunately happens occasionally during an election process when requests for rulings are not, I'm going to say, done in a timely manner or as quick as possible, because those are critical issues to an election. So some of the misunderstanding was because of that, but then I still stand by my decision to let it go through the election process, so that it is truly the citizens that are actually doing the appointing, even though it's one person. It's actually the citizens saying, boom, they got elected and they're in. And so I'm going to stand by that aspect of my decision. Thank you very much.
All right, and thank you. The word appointed, I want to clarify this, appointed for Ms. Terrell Locke is not accurate. She was elected 4 years ago. And at that very same time, so was Spencer Morrison, who is our treasurer. And so I do want to make it perfectly clear. I also want to clarify for perfect clarity that the position for clerk nor treasurer was located in the Appeal Democrat story. It prompted me to inquire after reading it as to how many positions were available in Sutter County, and also looking at ours here within the city. So a number of those, and at the very same time, I want to be perfectly clear, I was out looking and talking to people that were interested in running for school board, for city council, for all of those other things. It's not my job to do that, but it's my job to encourage people to be more civically active in our community and have them engaged, because an engaged community is the best community that we possibly can have. Just a couple small things. Down at SACOG, as I've announced previously, Mike McKeever is retiring at the end of the year. And we went through, as part of the board of directors on a select group that I was on, we went out and did a national search. We had over 40 applicants, And I am pleased to say that tomorrow, right around 1 o'clock, SACOG will hold a press conference to announce one of the most remarkable individuals we could have asked nor hoped for to step forward and seek the position of CEO at SACOG. Their start date will be roughly April 1, but in the interim, our COO at SACOG will be stepping in the interim position. So Kirk Trost will be the interim down there. And we appreciate his stepping forward to keep the organization running, as they are key and instrumental to almost every traffic project that we do in Yuba City. So,
Are you able to share who that new person is, or you have to wait till 1 o'clock?
I'm sworn to have to. Well, yeah. So I'm sworn.
You wait till 1 o'clock. Okay.
So we can't let it out because their involvement on the national scene is.
We're not going to say anything. You're just amongst your five of your closest friends here.
Yeah, nice. My wife even tried that, and I wouldn't tell her. The school district. Let me just share with you kind of what transpired in advance of the school district. First, I'd like to thank first the majority of the citizens of Yuba City for their supportive nature in that really led to members of the negotiating teams putting forward an effort to get together. And that effort was led, and I asked individuals to come in based on some experience and their expertise. But Cash, with his background in finance, his background in business, I asked Cash to come in, and then I had to go outside and from the business world, from the education world, because he owns a private educational institution, I asked Mr. Dan Flores, supervisor, to step in and help. There was no hesitation on their part to come in and be an active player in this. For over about 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, preceding the strike, there was always the threat of a strike looming. And we did not want to see the teachers, the Yuba City Teachers Association, step off of the cliff into a strike. We were looking for the possibility of a resolution prior to that. I was asked through the city manager, who had been approached by the school district, to possibly start formulating a plan of action. I spoke with Nancy Alberg and presented an independent forum that would have been more as a jury. It has worked in other jurisdictions, but bringing approximately 5 people together from the community to understand the interests and needs of the teachers, at the same time what the constraints and issues were for the district. That was not just rejected, but it was flat out rejected as maybe down the road if things get bad. Well, step forward. In between that period of time, I was being approached by members of the union. They were asking for intervention. Part of their negotiations team came to me and presented me with last proposals from the district. I read through them. I didn't understand them. I had to be educated on them. I have negotiated on behalf of police officers and have negotiated or been in backroom portions for the city of Yuba City. But I've never seen how complex the negotiations could be for teachers, and certainly when there's outside influences being played into that. Not local influence, but statewide influence. The funding sources, the legality of the funding sources, all of those things we had to ramp up fairly quick on. And on Thursday night, I was asked by, well, actually, Mr. Jennings came to my place of business and we talked for over an hour. And he was perplexed. They had been on their first day of strike. He had limited sleep. He was frustrated. He couldn't get traction in discussions or get anybody back to the table. My questions were, have you asked? No, they need to. That's the response. I asked the district, have you asked? No, they need to. That was the response. It wasn't going to happen anytime soon. So with that, I received a number of phone calls from members of the public asking for intervention. I had pastors, I had teachers, I had business people asking for somebody to intervene, and they felt that if I simply asked them to come to the table, that they might do it. So I was actually standing in the middle of a parking lot at an event for a new business here in town when I started making the phone calls. Those phone calls went out first to board members, to the president of the board. It went out to members of the district. It went out to the union representatives. And without any hesitation, they all agreed to an 8 o'clock Monday morning meeting. That's when I knew was getting close to victory. At that, I let that sink in. They started formulating their plans on how they were going to come together, and I dropped the second bombshell. I said, we're moving the time up. And so we moved it to Saturday with an effort to try to get the students back into the classroom last Monday. We were dedicated to that. I know that the efforts, the 16 straight hours that we put in down here were an effort towards that. I think there was a true effort being made. And then in the 11th hour of negotiations, outside influences prompted a change in direction. We couldn't have been more disappointed as the group that was trying to get this together. We started to try to pull away. We had to educate ourselves some more. We had to go through budget meetings with the district so we understood their budget. It's complex. It's different than a city's budget. So we had to learn that. At the same time, as Cash said, there were rumors flying around this city that weren't true. It could have been no further from the truth, the majority of what we were seeing. There was a true desire. There was frustration. They just didn't know how to mobilize and come back together with a true effort to try to get to resolve, and that resolve was to get our kids back into the classroom. After we talked about it, we offered the assistance of a negotiator. The district accepted after about a couple hours, and at 3 o'clock that afternoon, the Teachers Association turned it down. We were perplexed, and at that point, to maintain neutrality, I had to step back from what we were offering. At the same time, Mr. Darren Gale assisted in keeping channels of communication open for us, though we were not directly communicating with either district nor with the teachers union at that point. We were still offering facilities. And thank you to the citizens of Yuba City for allowing us to offer facilities that not only were here at City Hall, but we were able to go to gated locations to be able to keep the public influence, the outside influences down, and allow them to work out details. I can't be more proud of the resolution that came about. Our students are back. They're back in school. What does it mean for our area? 12,000 kids went back to school. If at 50%, 6,000 returned. Teachers are back at work. The economic loss to our community may not be recognized for a long time, but that aside, that's not the important issue. The important issue is making sure that our kids are educated. They were losing days at a catastrophic rate in the block schedule, and I can tell you that was the number one and only driving factor to try to get these folks back in the same room. I appreciate the efforts made by the negotiating teams, and then their willingness to bring in two separate mediators and help get through the process. I think they did a fantastic job of coming to resolution as the teachers group voted overwhelmingly to support and ratify that contract. Next step is the acceptance of the contract by the school board. So it's not done yet, but hopefully that we come to the final in chapter in a history here in Yuba City that doesn't provide for the very best view of our city, but certainly is one that we stepped through, and I think we did it without extreme violence, without anything else other than maybe a few people getting their feelings hurt, and a loss to our education system of 7 days of educational opportunity. But I certainly appreciate our teachers. I think that they're a remarkable value to our community. I have a daughter that's a teacher. I have an ex-wife that's a teacher. I speak highly of both of them. One is in the Marysville system, and one is here in Yuba City. And if you can imagine having an ex-wife in the Yuba City system, I might have heard just a couple negative things from her, but her input was also valuable. As every teacher out there wanted to make sure that the kids were back in the classroom. With that, we're going to adjourn tonight, but we're going to adjourn in the memory of our fallen Beal aviator, and certainly prayers are with his family. Support that this community can provide will be instrumental into them beginning a healing process. Thank you.